Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of On the Sidelines. My name's Matthew Limberti,
I'm Benedict Rhodes.
and we hope everybody continues to stay safe. Sorry, during these what continues to be crazy times. Have you been getting up to anything exciting lately, Ben?
Not really. The semester's kind of winding down now. It's partly the reason why we haven't filmed for a couple weeks now. Just kind of crazy busy with assignments and stuff, but it's all coming to an end next week, so hopefully uh, relax a little bit before it all starts again in January. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I like you, my semester's winding down as well, and just trying to focus on that. And as you mentioned, we didn't have a video a couple of weeks ago, sorry, last week due to our us both being busy on our both schedules. But yeah, we're back this week though. Um, but yeah, you want to start us off?
So first topic, last week, NFL Week 13 just came to an end. A lot of good, interesting games. But Matthew, what would you say was the biggest game from Week 13 in the NFL?
I mean, I guess I would say there wasn't like a lot of elite matchups. I mean, there was one which I'll bring up later, but I'm gonna go with an upset game and pick the New York Giants beating the Seahawks 17-12. I mean, first of all, I don't think anybody had any thought about the Giants winning this game. I think the Seahawks were heavily favored to win this game, and rightfully so because I mean, Giants right now are 5-7 after that win, um, and fighting for the NFC least. I like to call it right now. Um, their defense did do just enough to win the game, keeping Russell Wilson and the Seahawks to only 12 points. And actually, the Giants too were with starting. Sorry, they weren't with their starting quarterback this past weekend. So to consider that they just scored enough points to beat the Seahawks was pretty crazy to think about. And now with that loss, Seattle is 8-4 and tied for the Rams for the top spot in the NFC West.
I'm also going to go for an upset game. The Steelers finally lost the game. I've been kind of praising the Steelers all season, but they finally lost, losing to the Washington football team 23-17. Um, Obviously, it was significant because the Steelers finally lost, but also now Washington is now tied atop the NFC East, at least, with the New York Giants, like you mentioned, at 5-7. So it's kind of significant for a number of ways, not least because a team from with such a poor record, I guess, beat arguably the best team in the league. Um, so I think that was my Week 13 best game.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was crazy to think that we both picked that these two teams, these two NFC East teams, beat some pretty great opponents. I mean, like Steelers, we thought I think most people thought they would beat beat Washington because I mean they are kind of I mean they are 5-7 now, which is like I guess kind of better than they were before. And same with the Giants, who were I think they were 1-7, and now they're on a 4-game winning streak. So I mean they are kind of they're at a good pace right now, and I guess yeah we'll have to see between these two teams because I mean personally I don't think the Eagles or Cowboys have a chance to even win this division at this point with 4 weeks left because they both have their own issues. So I think it's gonna come down to one of these two teams.
Um,
But
I,
what game? Oh,
I
sorry. Go
was going
ahead.
to say, like, do you think there's going to be an NFC East team this year with a winning record, or do you think they're all going to be a losing or equal record?
Um, I mean, it's kind of tough to predict if they are, but I mean, personally for me, I'm gonna say no. I think maybe the best someone will be is like 8-8. Um, I mean, I can't really think of the schedules that both these teams have right now. I think the Giants and Washington both have some tough games coming up, if I'm not wrong. So, I mean, I think though that it's going to be at least 8-8 for a team to win this division. Do you agree?
Yeah, I don't think either team's going to be winning record with 4 games left. I think for most teams, so they have to win like at least less than 4 games to have a winning record, which I don't see happening, or 3 to even tie. So I don't really think we'll see a team go 8-8. Well, I'll have to wait and see. I guess they said the Giants have a nice little winning streak going, so you never know.
Yeah. And do you have any other? I mean, I did miss a big matchup from this past weekend. Did you want to bring that one up? Specifically the Cleveland and Tennessee game?
Yeah, that was an interesting game. Well, Cleveland, first of all, finally had their first winning record in, I think, 13 years or something. First time they finished with at least 9 wins. So that was pretty exciting. But the Titans made it close in this one. They scored 28 of the last 28 of the last 31
They outscored
points.
them.
I think
They outscored them 28. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say they outscored them 28-3 in the second half.
Yeah, but they still lost because the Browns outscored them 38-7 in the first half. It was a high-scoring game, but the Browns managed to hold off 41-35. So that was an interesting game. I personally didn't watch it, but I saw some highlights, and it was definitely high-scoring. The Browns dominated the first half, and the Titans dominated the second half. So I think in a way, both teams' defensive efforts, I mean, they probably should have lost. Both teams should have lost this game. But it was a good job by the Titans to sort of come back and not get absolutely destroyed like we thought they might.
Yeah, I think Cleveland has had some easier games to say the least, like recently. I mean, I do remember correctly, they barely beat Jacksonville, who's now 1-11, and I mean that's one of the many easy wins I would say Cleveland has had this season. But I mean, having a big win against Tennessee, I think obviously gives them a better shot to make the playoffs now. And with Baltimore now struggling, I mean, there's only one game left this week, which is the day we are filming, the Cowboys at Ravens. But the Ravens are definitely struggling right now, and I think that gives Cleveland an opportunity to make the wild card and overtake Baltimore.
Yeah, I would agree.
I guess, do you have any other games before we move to week 14?
Nope. Just one more thing though. That the Jets lost again.
Yeah, those
the Jets are 0-12. Jets are 0-12 now. I'm not even gonna ask the question. The question was, are they going to finish 0-16? So I think at this point, yeah. I'd be more surprised if they don't finish 0-16. So I'm not even going to ask you for your thoughts on that. But I just wanted to point out that the Jets did lose once again.
Yeah, I mean, I think that final play of the game too was just like, I mean, unexcusable for. I mean, it's not unexcusable for a bad team like the Jets, but I mean, just to see them lose on essentially a Hail Mary game-winning touchdown is just such a Jets thing.
Yeah, if the Jets were going to win any game, that game was probably the game they were going to win. Yeah, but then they messed it up. So just going to Jet, I guess.
Yeah, and then they fired their defensive coordinator too the next day. So, yeah,
a lot of problems. There's a lot more shakeups in New York for the next couple months.
Yeah, I guess all we can say is we hope Trevor Lawrence does well when he gets picked by the Jets in the draft. So that's all I can say.
Well, we'll be very Jets if they end up winning one game in Jacksonville, get him, and then the Jets end up going 1-16 again next year.
Yeah, Jacksonville does have a shot, but I mean, I think you can tell the Jets are tanking right now, and that was probably that play that we talked about is probably like the reason why they're going to go 1-16. Is because they don't care at this point.
Is the NFL a draft lottery, or is it just the worst team gets the first pick?
Worst team, I think, gets the first pick. So right now, obviously, not like the NHL or NBA, okay. No.
Because that'd be pretty Jets if they did finish 0-16, and then like a team that had like 3 wins or something ended up getting Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah. I guess it's going to be a fight for Jacksonville and the Jets at this point to get the first pick, but I think clearly it might be the Jets at this point. Yeah. But yeah, and anything else on week 13 though? No? Okay. Now I guess moving to week 14, there are a couple of intriguing matchups. Which one would you say is the one of the better games to look forward to?
I think interesting one's going to be Browns and the Ravens. As you mentioned, the Ravens have been sort of slipping a little bit. I mentioned the Browns have secured their first winning season in a long time. So a win for the Browns would probably put them out of reach of the Ravens, and also on a few more people's radars. Like a lot of people kind of think that this Browns team is sort of big good to be true after all the terrible seasons that they've had over the last few years. So finally be having a good season and be looking like they're going to pick up a wild card spot. Uh, I think that's going to be an interesting game. See if the Ravens can sort of hang on, or if the Browns are going to sort of pull clear.
Yeah, definitely a great choice. I mean, my pick is the Sunday night game with the Steelers and Bills. Of course, as we talked about, the Steelers just came off their first loss of the season against Washington, losing their hopes of a perfect record. Um, and of course, and also the Bills, who we didn't mention, won against San Francisco in Arizona, who's San Francisco had to move to Arizona, which is something we didn't mention. But yeah, Bills played in Arizona to beat the Niners on Monday night, and Allen threw for 375 yards in that game, which showed he's probably one of the better quarterbacks when it comes to like the AFC division. I mean, obviously can't go wrong with Mahomes, but he's probably up there for one of the better quarterbacks in the AFC. But in regards to this game, I think it's going to prove maybe who has a better shot to beat the Chiefs in the playoffs. Because I mean, right now I don't see the Steelers having a shot of beating the Chiefs. I mean, maybe the Bills potentially, but I mean, you can't go wrong with their Chiefs offense. Maybe their defense will give it up to the Bills or something like that if Allen has a crazy game if somehow they met up in the playoffs. But having said all that, I think this will probably prove who is the this game will probably prove who has the second best or the best chance of beating the Chiefs in the AFC.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think, like I've been saying all year, the Steelers are the best team because they had the unbeaten record. But I think when you actually watch them play, I think there are obviously better teams than the Steelers. They've just been finding ways to win games, which I guess is ultimately what matters, I suppose. But I think the Chiefs, when you actually the eye test, they are the best team. So like you said, like whoever wins this game is probably going to be showing the other one that they're the legit team, second best team on the field anyway. So that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, and also right now the Steelers they still managed to hold that number one seed in the AFC. Of course, the Chiefs are tied with the Steelers for the best record in the AFC with both 11-1 records. And also keep in mind, only the first seed gets to get a bye in the wild card weekend. So I think it's big for one of these two teams to rest for that weekend. But do you see? I mean, thinking about, I guess the final 4 weeks of the season, do you still see the Steelers being a number one seed?
Well, I certainly wouldn't rule it out. Like, you look at the Steelers' schedule; they have the Bengals, the Bills, the Colts, and the Browns. It's not the easiest schedule. Whereas the Chiefs, they have the Saints, Dolphins, Falcons, and Chargers. So there's a couple of big games there for either team. So I think if as long as they both execute in the games they're expected to win, then I can imagine the Steelers probably staying in number one. But if they lose one of those games, I think maybe the Steelers might win all four of their games, or at least three of them. And so it's kind of hard to tell. Right? It kind of just depends on who. Like, kind of see this now as the start of like the next part of the season, if you will. Like, it's a 4 game season. Whoever's the best record is the number one seed. So uh, I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell, really. But I wouldn't say no to Steelers being number one still.
Yeah, I think both teams have tough games coming up. I think for me, if the Steelers want to hold their number one seed, they have to beat the Bills this weekend. And then I think after that, you mentioned they had the Bengals, Colts, and I forgot who the other team was. If you want to, the fourth team, I think it was the final week of the season who they had.
They have the Bills, Bengals, Colts, and Browns.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the Browns also might be a tough game, but the Steelers did beat them by the off the breaks or like by a crazy score the last time. I think it was like by 30 or something, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe that might be a tougher game the second time around. But I mean, having said that, I think if the Steelers, sorry, beat the Bills this weekend, I think that they'll hold on to their number one seed.
I agree.
Um, Yeah, and I guess also I forgot to mention. Look, staying in the Week 14 conversation, did you have any other games to bring up? Because I did mention there are a couple of intriguing games.
Yeah, one for me is the Colts and the Raiders. I think they're two second place teams who are trying to catch up. The Colts are tied at 8-4 with the Titans, so they're much more likely to catch up. Obviously, one game could do it. Whereas the Raiders have four fewer wins than the 11-1 Chiefs. They're like 7-5. With just 4 games to go. So I think the AFC West. I think the Steelers, or I mean, sorry, the Chiefs have all but confirmed their win. Whereas the Colts still definitely have a chance. So this will be an interesting game to see what implications it might have on the playoff picture. What about you? What other games from Week 14 do you have in mind?
I mean, that's a great pick. I think that's one of the more intriguing matchups of the besides the ones we mentioned. I think also another one is the Chiefs at the Dolphins. Um, I think I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that the Dolphins have only, or I should mention, sorry, this week. Like up to now, the Dolphins only have one loss with Tua as their starting QB. I mean, who I'd say maybe hasn't been playing elite yet, but I mean, he's obviously building himself up to the pick that he is. I think this is a big game for Miami and keeping their wild card hopes alive. I know that they are in a wild card spot right now, but I think this game will show how true of a contender Miami is, and if somehow some way the Dolphins can beat the Chiefs this weekend, I think they're going to cement themselves into a wild card spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
As we've done every week, we've always picked a best team in each conference. So Matthew, do you want to do it? Yours for the AFC and NFC?
Yeah, so I'm gonna stick with the same picks I've been going with for a while now, with the Chiefs in the AFC and the Saints in the NFC. The Saints we haven't brought up yet haven't even lost a game with their since their starting quarterback Drew Brees got injured. I can't remember how long ago now, but their backup quarterback Taysom Hill has been winning games for them. I mean, I think that matters for the Saints right now because they want to stay that number one seed in the NFC, and if Hill can be playing how he is like the past couple of games, I think that they'll stay at that number one spot and yeah, just stay there.
Yeah, I'm also going with the same picks as last week. I'm going to go with the Steelers in the AFC and the Saints in the NFC. I think, like I said before, I think there are other teams maybe better than the Steelers on the field, but the Steelers are finding ways to win games, which is ultimately what matters, especially in the playoffs. So maybe if other teams are maybe outplaying them, the Steelers are still coming away with the W. So I'm going to stick with them in the AFC for now. I think these next 4 weeks are going to maybe change my opinion if they can prove they're legit, or will I be jumping on the Chiefs bandwagon as well. And as for the Saints, you mentioned it. Like they're playing well without Drew Brees. They're still winning games. They're looking like one of the best teams in the NFC, and I think might go all the way to the Super Bowl, or at least go deep into the playoffs. So, yeah, I would agree with the Saints in the NFC.
Yeah, I think the thing for the Saints is that they just have to get rid of their playoff woes from the past couple of years. Of course, we know that the passer interference call a couple years ago really gave them really just hurt them. And then last year losing to Minnesota at home in overtime in the wild card game was just both teams. I mean, both years were just bad for the Saints. And actually, also I didn't mention the Minnesota Miracle that happened 3 years ago. So it's been painful for Saints fans when it comes to the playoffs. But I mean, maybe somehow with Drew Brees going into potentially his final year, maybe his second last year, depending on if he's going to stay with the Saints or retire. But I think he should be motivated when he comes back from his injury to take them all the way.
Definitely.
And I guess finally we'll talk about the current playoff picture in the NFL playoffs. Of course, as we mentioned, the Steelers are still hanging on to that number one seed in the AFC. with the Saints holding the number one spot in the NFC. And right now, the games that would be held in the wild card round would be the Chiefs hosting the Colts, the Bills hosting the Dolphins, and Tennessee hosting Cleveland. And then while in the NFC, we would see the Packers hosting the Vikings. The Vikings have moved up to the wild card spot. The Rams hosting the Tampa Bay, and then the Giants hosting Seattle. I guess talking about like just saying these 6 games, which one do you think is one of the more intriguing ones right now?
You can see the first two again. I missed the first two.
Chiefs at Colts, or sorry, Colts at Chiefs, and Dolphins at Bills.
I like both of those games. I think. That's what I said. I kind of thought I misheard though, but yeah, Dolphins and Bills would be a good one. Nice little division rivalry. Uh, Everyone's wondering if the Dolphins might overtake the Bills in the standings, so that's looking more unlikely than it maybe did a couple weeks ago, although still close. So that could be an interesting game. Chiefs and Colts would also be really good because if the Colts, as it currently stands, stay in second place, I think they might be a bit of a dark horse to maybe win a couple of games in the playoffs because people seem to be talking more about the Titans in the AFC South, but I think the Colts are obviously just as good at 8-4 still. Of all those games you mentioned, I think Dolphins and Bills would be a good one.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you and say those 2 games too. But I mean, when it comes to the NFC side, I think that Rams Bucks game, who we've already seen that matchup this year on Monday night, is pretty intriguing too. I mean, this is a rematch of 2 quarterbacks who met in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago with Jared Goff and Tom Brady, and obviously Tom Brady's on a different team now, so that's why they would potentially meet in a wild card game. But yeah, I think that would be an intriguing game. I would also say the Tennessee and Cleveland game too. Of course, we saw that matchup this past weekend, and I think with Cleveland just scoring 41 points against the Titans, I think they would have a shot to upset the Titans in that game. Although that is a 4-5 matchup, which I don't know if it'd be considered. It's just like 1 spot off, but yeah, I would say the Tennessee and Cleveland game, and then also the Rams and Bucks.
If Tennessee and Cleveland's anything like it was this last weekend, I think that would be an amazing playoff game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, we'll have to see. Obviously, things happen. Like everything's going to move in the next 4 weeks potentially. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what the final matchups are going into the final 4 weeks of the season. But yeah, can't wait to see how this all unfolds.
And on episode 18, the last episode before this one, we made our picks for division winners and wildcard teams. Wildcard teams. Matthew, do you want to sort of recap who you picked for the division winners and the wildcard teams in the AFC, and then tell us if you still stick with those teams?
Yeah. So for my AFC division winners, I had the Bills winning the East, Steelers winning the North, Colts winning the South, and Chiefs winning the West. I think I'm going to stick with everything I have right now, but I mean that Colts one is kind of tough because the Titans are fighting for that division as well. But I think the Steelers and the Chiefs are going to win their divisions. I guess on the NFC side, I said that I'm pretty sure I said the Giants when I picked the NFC East winner. I said the Packers for the North, Saints for the South, and Rams for the West. I think I feel confident in 3 of the 4. I mean, the Rams one, it's tough too because Seattle is tied with the Rams right now for the top in that division. So, yeah, I mean, I would say those 2, the Colts and the Rams, tough to say right now. And then when it comes to the wild card teams, I picked the Titans, Raiders, and Ravens for the AFC. That Ravens pick is really, and the Raiders and Ravens picks are really looking right now, but we'll see how they do in the rest of the season. And then for the NFC side, I picked the Seahawks, Bucks, and Cardinals. And like I said, the Cardinals one I think is going to be tough because they are out of a playoff spot right now, and Minnesota is in that 7th spot. So yeah, those are the teams I picked, but we'll see how that all unfolds.
I picked a lot of the same teams as you did. The NFC division winners in the East. My notes said "Who cares?" So I don't actually remember who I picked. If I picked anyone, I don't remember. But I'll make a prediction now. I guess I'll say the Washington football team will win the NFC East. The North, I picked the Packers. The South, I picked the Bucks, and the West, I picked the Seahawks. I'm definitely gonna go back on the Bucks statement in the South. I think the Saints are in that division. I think that's looking more and more likely. They're now 3 games up on them. In the North, I picked the Packers. I'm gonna stick with that one. They're a few games ahead, and in the NFC West, I picked the Seahawks, which again I'm gonna stick with that one too. I think, although they're currently tied with the Rams. So, like you mentioned, you never know what could happen in that division. It's one of the closest divisions in the NFL. And for NFC wildcard teams, I had the Saints, the Rams, and the Cardinals. I'm going to stick with all 3 of those. Except I'm going to switch the Saints for the Bucks because I said that the Saints would actually win the division. So I'm going to sort of do a little switch there. And as for the... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry. You finish.
Okay. Then for the AFC division winners, I had Buffalo in the East, the Steelers in the North, the Titans in the South, and the Chiefs in the West. So in the South, I'm going to change the Titans for the Colts, I think. Oh, it's kind of another one like the Seahawks and the Rams. It's hard to tell. They're both tied at 8-4. It's kind of hard to tell, but I just have a good feeling about the Colts for some reason. And my wildcard teams were the Raiders, the Ravens, and the Colts. I'm going to switch the Colts for the Titans. But I'm also going to take the Ravens out, and I'm going to replace them with the Browns.
Yeah, I mean that the rate. What was I going to say? In the AFC, right now it's kind of tough to say if the Ravens are going to make the playoffs. As you mentioned, you said you replaced the Browns with the Ravens. I think we'll have to see how that matchup on Monday night goes because, of course, the Ravens and Browns are facing each other. And I think for me, because they still have to play their Tuesday night game. So if they lose to the Cowboys and then lose to the Browns and go, I guess they would be 6-7 at that time. I wouldn't see them making the playoffs at that point. But yeah, we'll have to see how everything goes during the final couple weeks.
Yeah. Anything else on the NFL before we move
on? No, I think I'm good.
Want to bash any more NFC East teams or the Jets before we move on?
Well, I mean, the Eagles and Cowboys are all having issues right now, but I mean, it's just crazy to see Washington and the Giants, who I don't think anybody thought would actually compete in this division, like now number 1 and 2 in the division. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely intriguing division, let's say. Let's move on to the NBA then. We finally have a schedule for the first half of the season. Starts in 2 weeks from today. Today's December 8th. Starts in exactly 2 weeks. What do you think of the sort of schedule being released, Matthew? I know opening night we have the Warriors and the Nets and the Clippers and the Lakers. Those sort of tip off the season, but what do you make of those games, first of all?
Well, it's funny how the Raptors are opening up against the same team they did last season. Of course, you can recall their ring ceremony. In that game, they faced the Pelicans, and I don't think Zion even played that game, so it wasn't as intriguing as most people thought. But it did take the Raptors overtime to win that game, if I'm not wrong. But yeah, it's just funny seeing them having to face the Pelicans again for a second straight season on opening night. I would say also the Christmas games too. Pelicans, Heat, Warriors, Bucks, Nets, Celtics, Mavericks, Lakers, and Clippers at Denver. I think all those games are pretty intriguing. I think even that Clippers Nuggets game uh, is intriguing too. Of course, both teams faced each other last year in the Western Conference semis with that infamous Clippers collapse, that 3-1 collapse. But yeah, I think the Christmas games are intriguing, and also the opening night games too, as you mentioned.
Yeah, a lot of people are kind of upset that the Raptors are being forced to play in another country, at least at the start of the season, probably the whole season eventually. But they're not going to be playing on Christmas Day. A lot of people are kind of hoping that because of this, they're making some extra sacrifices other teams aren't necessarily making. It'd be nice to give them a Christmas game. Christmas games, they're big financially, they're big attention for the team. They're sort of the games everyone wants to play in. So a lot of people are kind of disappointed the Raptors didn't get one of those games. But yeah, going back to the first night of the season, you have the Warriors versus the Nets and the Clippers versus the Lakers. What do you make of those two games?
Yeah, I like I like that they put the Clippers and Lakers, um, especially on ring ceremony night when the Clippers have to see LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and the all the Lakers getting their rings that night. I think that was funny for the NBA to do that, and also that Warriors Nets game. It's of course everyone I think has high expectations for the Nets with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. Um, and of course, the Warriors don't have Klay Thompson for the season as he went down for, I guess this would be the second straight season. But yeah, I mean, both games are very intriguing. I'm interested to see how the Nets' first game with potentially Durant and Irving. I think right now they're both healthy, if I'm not wrong. So yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Or if James Harden gets traded there too.
Yeah,
I
that
don't
would.
I don't imagine it will, but that's kind of been a rumor floating around.
Yeah, I mean, I know everyone was. I mean, even me, I was like saying like that would be a crazy trade for even just to have like three of those caliber players on the same team would just be insane. I mean, they would. I mean, I don't think it would work, but possibly. I mean, I think I've heard that Philadelphia consideration for Harden trade. But yeah, I mean that would be a crazy trade for Brooklyn. But I mean, be too many guys just like trying to, like three. If you have three players like of that caliber on the same team, I think it's just it's tough to say if they like who would be the biggest scorer that night, like Durant or Harden, because
Yeah,
both
I
are
think that would be bad. Actually, I
and
think that would
Irving.
be it turns a lot of like beef in the locker room, like who wants to be the top dog, and you have three guys who want to be the top dog. Like I already think Durant and Irving, having two guys like that's already going to be a bit of a problem. Not to mention if you add a third guy like Harden who's used to score 50 points a game sometimes. I don't know if that's going to mix very well, to be honest. If it does happen, I don't think it will happen.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, it's. I know we are 2 weeks until the season, but I mean, I guess the Rockets can make a trade at some point. But they did make another trade too. They traded Russell Westbrook to Washington and got John Wall back, which is another interesting trade. I guess I'll just ask briefly, what did you think of that trade?
I don't know. It was interesting because I think both players maybe weren't going to be staying with those teams for much longer, whether it's by trade or by contract ending. I think both those players are going to move on eventually at some point. Uh, so I guess both teams sort of have a chance now to sort of maybe re-sign that other player they got back, and maybe sort of build around them. I don't know. It's kind of I think there's some first round picks swapped around too, wasn't there?
I think so.
Can't remember who got
Yeah.
them. I want to say the Washington got them, but either way, like I think both teams sort of benefited in the sense that they were probably going to lose the player anyway, and now they have at least something for them, which they can now hopefully re-sign one of those players or build around them. But I don't know, it's kind of interesting. Not what I was expecting to be honest, but I don't know, kind of neutral to it. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I mean, it's it's an interesting trade. I mean, I would I would say that having Beal and Westbrook is I mean, it is a good duo, but I mean, the team they're with, Washington, I don't think they will really do much because they're the Wizards, and they've really not lived to any kind of expectations recently. So, I mean, I don't know if they'll go far in the playoffs or even maybe fight for a playoff spot with the new play-in tournament that they had with last year's playoffs. Maybe make that, but I mean, it doesn't really improve. I guess improves them a little bit, but not to like a championship contender. And I guess on the Rockets side of things, like the Rockets are having some of their issues with Harden, and if he's going to really be committed to Houston at this point. So I mean, it's not really like a. I mean, it is a big trade, like with name wise, because it's Westbrook and John Wall. But I mean, I don't know if it'll really help any both teams exceed to a championship at this point.
Anything else on NBA?
No, I guess not. I mean, I just mentioned that preseason does start this weekend, and I don't think personally I've been more excited to see a preseason game than ever, because I mean most of us don't even care about preseason. But yeah, what about you?
No, I'm good for NBA, but breaking right now as we're recording, the winner of the Lou Marsh Award has just been announced for top Canadian athlete. As we're recording.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. I was I could edit in one of those little like bars across the bottom of the screen. Probably not. Don't get your hopes up. The Lou Marsh Award will be shared by two people this year. By Alphonso Davies, Canadian men's soccer player, plays for Bayern Munich, who's kind of won everything this year, and from a pure sporting perspective anyway, probably is the right choice. And he'll be sharing it with, I'll probably mess his name up, Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, if I messed that up. He's the lineman for the Chiefs in the NFL, won the Super Bowl, and also acting as a doctor during COVID as well, doing a lot of stuff. So what do you make of those two picks, Matthew?
Yeah, I mean, both are a great choice. I mean, especially the Chiefs player too. I think that was a great choice going with him. I mean, I'm pretty sure he opted out of this season to, as you mentioned, become a doctor and help in the hospital with, of course, COVID-19 being a big issue right now. So it was great for him to do something like that for this season. So I think rightfully so, he deserves that. And Alphonso Davies too, being one of the better Canadian soccer players, are probably the best, I would say, right now in the world. Is another great choice for the Lou Marsh Award. But yeah, great choices by both great choices.
Yeah, just Google them, and he's been working in Montreal at a long-term care facility, helping out people with COVID-19. And he was the first player in the NFL to opt out of the season a few months ago. So, and Sports Illustrated named him as one of their sports people of the year for his COVID-19 contributions. So a big shout out to him. That's incredible, and congratulations to both of them. Maybe we'll cover this more next week and have more time to sort of analyze it a bit more. Sorry, my cat's meowing in the back. We'll cover this again on episode 20, I guess. We'll kind of look back and have more time to sort of think about this. As I said, it's breaking right now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, congratulations to both of them, and they definitely both deserve that. Yeah, but as Ben mentioned, we'll discuss it in more form next time. But moving on to our final topic of the day, the Olympic sports, the new Olympic sport, I should say, being added to 2024. Of course, the first three, skateboarding, sport climbing, and surfing, are already going to be going on in Tokyo next summer. But one sport that everybody pretty much is talking about right now is the new breakdancing sport, which is pretty interesting to say the least. But what did you think about the Olympics adding this to their sports? To the Olympic thing.
Well, overall, I like it. I think I would have liked to have seen skateboarding, sport climbing, and surfing this year. Obviously, if you haven't seen the Olympics yet, they're going to be next summer, hopefully. So it'd be nice to sort of see them and kind of see what they looked like before maybe bringing them back in 2024. These are three sports which are established professional sports. So I think in that sense, we're talking about skateboarding, sport climbing, and surfing. Those are three sports, but I think they have like their own like World Cup tour kind of seasons. So bringing those back, I think, is pretty safe. Breaking or breakdancing, that one I was a little bit more shocked by. I think again, I want to see more of it. I haven't really heard about it as a professional sport other than the last few months when they're talking about putting it in the Olympics. So I don't dislike it. I think the Olympics wants to and needs to attract younger fans and more fans from around the world. And I think breaking or breakdancing is obviously a form of sport. So yeah, I don't mind it. I do want to see uh, more coverage of it before I can make sort of like a final decision on whether I like it or not. But yeah, I don't dislike it being added just for the attraction value it'll have to people around the world.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty interesting too. I think this was already a consideration being added to the Olympics, breakdancing or breaking, as you mentioned. But yeah, I think I'm pretty sure skateboarding, sport climbing, and surfing, as you mentioned, probably already have like a tour that, they rise like to rankings or something like that, and like whoever like the best out of that makes the Olympics. But I think with breakdancing, I think as you mentioned, it does help give the Olympics a chance to bring in the younger audience. Maybe because some sports, some maybe don't care too much about, besides like the most popular ones. But I would say, yeah, if they were trying to attract younger Olympic fans, I think they did a great job with adding breakdancing. But I mean, it'd be interesting to see how that will work and everything. Because I mean, I'm not really a fan of it, but I mean, I don't know too much about it. I guess I would say like if it's like how competitive it is in the world, because I don't know about any breakdancing league in the world. But having said that, it will be interesting to see how they would implement this in the Olympics in 2024.
Exactly. Like I'll give it a shot. I'll personally do it, but like I'll give it a shot watching it. Um, yeah, stay tuned for On The Sidelines breakdancing competition video.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, I'll watch it. I'll see what it's about. But yeah, I'll have to watch it before I can make like an actual decision on it. And back to surfing and skateboarding, they definitely both have like a tour competition kind of thing. I'm not sure about sport climbing, although they must do because they have Olympic qualification events of some sort. And like skateboarding has like the X Games and all the different tours like that. Um, would have been kind of cool to see skateboarding added a long time ago. Maybe you get like some of the old legends like Tony Hawk or something competing in the Olympics would be pretty cool. Um, but yeah, it's good to see. I think the youth going to be interested in the next few Olympics.
Yeah, definitely. And I would also say like I guess like as I mentioned, this was sort of a thing that they were in the making, because I'm pretty sure they had this. They were considering this beforehand, like having break dance. Um, I mean, I guess I mean it would be interesting, like as I mentioned, to see how this works. But uh, I mean, I wouldn't know necessarily where it would be popular, like breakdancing specifically, but I think just in general, it would be entertainment for younger fans and maybe gain more.
This could be the thing that makes it popular, right? Like, imagine a lot of sports aren't popular outside of Olympic years. Like, sports I love watching, like skeleton in the Winter Olympics, for example. Like, I love watching that. It's one of my favorite sports to watch. But at the same time, I don't think I've ever watched it outside an Olympic year, or maybe once or twice on a rerun on CBC or whatever. But like, that's one of those sports where it's like it just has no coverage. So maybe breakdancing will become one of the more popular sports at the Olympics. You never know. I definitely think it's worth a try, and if it doesn't work out, they just take it up for 2028. But I imagine this could be sort of like the start of breakdancing becoming a popular sport to watch.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that goes. I mean, in the meantime, we still have the 2020 Olympics going on next year, so let's hope that runs smoothly before the 2024. But yeah,
Yeah, let's hope those games happen. Of course, with the COVID-19 situation going on around the world. We will also, I won't mention too much about it just yet, but we plan over the next little while to make a video about the 2010 Olympics in Vancouver, as they were 10 years ago, just over 10 years ago, almost 11 years ago now, I guess, in Canada, in Vancouver. So we're going to do a video about that. I won't tease too much about it, but keep an eye out for that over the next couple of weeks. Anything else you want to add on the Olympics, Matthew?
No, I think I'm good. But as you mentioned, stay tuned for that video and that you just talked about. But yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's it for episode number 19 then. Thanks for watching as always. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and all our social media is in the description below. So if you want to follow us on there, then follow us, please. My name is Benedict Rhodes.
I'm Matthew Lee Bruni.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.